than on the OPAC, appropriately enough. Yeah, Christopher, you're all welcome to make fun of me as well. Kelly and Donna will just have more opportunities.
Do have somebody saying they're having video issues, so please let us know. They can only see Andrew's face.
I was just saying, let me see what happens if I stop and restart my share here. Does that make any difference? Cool. You know, mysteries of Zoom. Okay. So, OPAC. The first thing I want to look at is a change to how some authority-linked terms show up. Let me pull up an example bib. I think this is a bug that I filed, so it's kind of exciting to see it. I typed that wrong. Oop, and you're not authority linked. Here we go. We had a partner discovered that when a record had a subject in the 655 that was linked to an authority record, it wasn't properly getting this little magnifying glass. So small change, but making it a little more obvious across your different types of subject headings when those things are tied to an authority record. So if I move around through these, all the subject headings that don't have a little magnifying glass are not authority controlled, but when they are, they get that little magnifying glass. That was already true for 650s. It just was not working on 655s for some reason. So that's been fixed. Some other kind of searching related changes here. First off, this search box here has a new option in it. It now includes ISSN as well as ISBN. So if you want to search by a serial number, you can do that from here. Although I'll admit, I never quite understand why somebody would change this to ISSN or ISBN when those are both included in just the general catalog search, and those are like not, you're not going to have many records in your catalog that just happen to have an ISSN in them. Anyway. Next one is a little wonky to demonstrate, but it's a change to page titles when you do an advanced search. So I don't know. Search for Batman 100 times a day. Why change now? And this really is something that becomes meaningful when, well, yeah, Michael, absolutely. It would it makes total sense to search by ISSN. I just don't quite know why you would need to tell it to search the ISSN index specifically when throwing that into the keyword is still going to get your journal. And it's still going to be the top hit. Anyway. This is where I struggle to remember that there's no wrong way to use Koha, and that my opinions aren't that important. They're just strong. All right, so this, we can't even really see it there, but.
Oh, there's a question.
Oh, I'll loop it back around to that. Michael asks, still on ISSN, will you get a specific hit instead of lots of results? If you do the ISSN as a keyword, you'll probably get a couple more results than just the one journal, or the one journal you were looking for, because something will hit a number that's close to that, but the journal you're after should still be top of the list. I don't know. Do whatever makes more sense to you. All right, so the title of this page prior to 1905 would have been a long string that gives exactly everything I searched for So a string of keyword, word list, blah, 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 Batman. It is now just results of search Batman. And what this really means is that if I take this URL and try to share it somewhere, like on Facebook, or put a link to it somewhere, that will give a title, a page title that actually like is readable rather than a bunch of garbly nonsense. Yep, so then going to Christopher's question about this currently closed, this is some jQuery that Lucas wrote. I think actually he cribbed it off of a partner and then tweaked it a little bit. We'd be happy to talk to anybody who wants to set that up. In the jQuery, you tell it your hours through the day, and then every time the OPAC loads, it checks the current time and tells whether or not the library is open.
I'll put the link to that blog post in the chat.
It does not yet check your calendar to know whether or not the day is a holiday. Lucas and I were talking yesterday about ways that might be made to work, but we haven't figured it out yet. He thinks that might need to be a full plugin. But yeah, it's a shiny little thing. All right, next up, I want to talk about news. So I'm going to go back to the Koha homepage. Yeah, that was what I thought, Christopher, that if we wrote a public report that checks whether or not the library is open today, that could be included in the jQuery to figure out whether or not it should say not normal hours, but instead just closed. So news, we have some changes to news. First, and I know we talked about this one in our What's New webinars, we have a new area where news can show. You are correct, Michael, that would be a difficult question with multiple branches that are open and closed at different times. The whole, the entirety of showing your hours and your OPAC would be hard with multiple branches. You'd have to figure out which branch to show for who, when, or make a great big thing that says this branch is open, this branch is closed, and so on. So as discussed in our What's New webinar, we can now create news items that show here in what was previously the OPAC nav write HTML area. Now instead of having a little HTML box that we stick code into, we set up a news item to show there. So if I go to Tools and News, you can see several of these are location, OPAC nav write, and then EN, that's the language qualifier. That's for the English language OPAC. So we've got several things there. 1905 is coming, Koha is awesome, winter is coming. There used to be several here that said Kelly was awesome, and I don't know where they all went.
I deleted them.
Crisis of humility.
No, just wanted to delete them. So awesome.
So we can put news here now. I am told that as we move forward through upcoming versions of Koha, other areas like over here, the OPAC nav left, OPAC nav left bottom, I think this one is, those are also going to start being set up as news rather than those system preferences, because they're a little easier to add to and manage in the format. The other thing that has changed for news, if you notice that this title looks a little different than it does on 1811, and it is a link now, because we've now set it up so that every news item can display in a page by itself. So if I click that link, it takes me to a page that is just that news item. And that's fun in and of itself. If you set up a news item that is about a program or something that you would like to put a link to somewhere to take your patron to specifically information about this thing, that's nice to be able to link that news item. Also, if you have the URL, yeah, it is better for printing. If you have the URL for that news item in particular, that can still be loaded even if that news item is no longer showing on your homepage. So if I look back at my table of news here, this one that I called Secret News is expired, so it's no longer just showing when I go to the homepage. But if I check its number, that was news ID number 6. That still exists to be shown wherever I want to show it, but it's not on the home page anymore. So if I had set up a page here, I can keep that page and continue to use it and not worry about just showing it on the OPAC homepage. So if nothing else, that's a really easy way to make a quick temporary informational page. All right, some more display stuff. For this next one, I'm going to go into a particular record. Bon appetit, and I'm going to look at the subscriptions page where it is now showing me the shelving location for this subscription in my subscription details. This won't make a huge difference for libraries that are also making item records for their serials, because those items would have already had a shelving location. But if you're just recording serials as issues, this is a great way to make sure your patrons know where to find those things in the library. Previously, this did not have any indication of a shelving location for your subscription. And then I want to talk next a little bit about article requests, which apparently are not turned on for periodicals. So let's find something that will let me do an article request. Oh, unless we just flipped article requests off. Let me check real quick.
Be off.
Oh, they're on. Okay. Always show. Well, why aren't you showing, my friend? Well, that's mysterious. Yearbook.
Are you logged in?
I am not yet. No, I am. I'm logged in as Bywater support. Well, there we go. I'm not allowed to make article requests as Bywater support. Sorry about that. There we go. Problem solved. All right, so if I request my article, first off, we have a nice little change to our breadcrumbs here. Previously, these just said home, request article. But now from this page, I can still see what record I'm on, which record I'm making this request for, and that also is a link back to that record. There is also a change that I'm not going to be able to very easily show you. We've restyled the error message you get if you are not allowed to place article requests. If you get that link and then when you click it, it turns out the item type you're on doesn't allow article requests, it just gives you a nicer formatted error message on that. Okay, my next two things are OPAC related, but I'm going to show you over on the staff side. And they have to do with whether or not your patrons are allowed to change and or reset their passwords from the OPAC. So we've got a couple system preferences that have existed for a while. OPAC password change and OPAC reset password. These define whether or not your patrons are able to change or reset their password from the OPAC. Mostly, we turn these off for libraries that use LDAP or some other form of like third-party authentication, because those patrons aren't really using their Koha password, and we don't want to give them the sort of false impression that they're changing the password they log in with. And up to 1905, it's been a global setting. It's been on or off for everybody. Now, in 1905, we have a variable we can set in the patron category setup to say for any given patron category, for password reset and password change, do they follow the system preference or do they get some sort of other behavior? So this will let us, for libraries that are using some sort of authentication, say for all your regular patrons who use that authentication system, they cannot change their password, they cannot reset their password. But for your community borrowers or other sort of special borrower types that don't authenticate through your third-party system, they can go ahead and use Koha like any other patron. They can reset their password and change their password. So a lot of nice flexibility. I imagine this will be nice for larger consortia too, where people don't quite have a shared opinion about how these things should be. Nice to be able to sort of differ that a little bit more. And I should say that second change, the password reset functionality, that was sponsored by the Virginia Tech Library. So thank you for that. Speaking of changing your password, if I go back here and go to my account and change your password. We've had some changes here, little stuff, but just sort of clarity. This button used to say submit changes, and now it says change password, to sort of be a little more clear about what you're doing. And if I changed my password, which I'm not going to do because other people need to log in with this account, if I changed it, the wording on the message you get after you've changed it has changed. It used to give you a little return to your record button. Now it's going to say return to your account. So just trying to be a little more clear with what we're doing and where we're sending people. And next up is a change that I'm not quite sure how many of you are going to take advantage of, but it is an interesting new feature. And to show it to you, I'm going to turn on, see, I do that 100 times a day. I search my patron categories and not my preferences. I'm going to turn on GDPR on our site here. And so I don't know if any of you have been using the GDPR feature. What this does is, if it's turned on, when a patron logs into the OPAC for the first time, they will be asked, do you consent to having the library save your data here on this website? So this is for the, I always forget what GDPR stands for, but it's the European Union privacy laws. So this really was added because European libraries needed it. And this part is not new. This was in 1811. So if you want your patrons to have to say yes or no to the GDPR, to you handling their personal data and saving that data. Thanks, Christopher. General Data Protection Regulation.
I should have told you that I was asked that yesterday as well, and I didn't know.
You can tell me. This acronym had chances to stick. I think it missed its chance there. Anyway, if I say yes, I agree, Koha saves that code, remembers that I have consented to have my information saved, and there we go. Michael asks, what is the default? They have to opt in, or are they opted in by default? They have to opt in. It has no, when you turn this on, there is nothing saved for anybody. They have to say yes to log into the OPAC. If I say, no, I do not agree. I don't want to do this on BWS support. That would make various things sad. Hold on a second. Let me log in as me. I have previously agreed to this, but if I say no, I do not agree, it's gonna just kick me out of the OPAC. I'm not logged in anymore. And if I go over to my account, that doesn't show me anything there yet. But it's not gonna let me log into the OPAC at all. Or rather, when I do, it will give me that consent page again. It's not going to let me get past that until I've said yes. Okay, but here's the new part. I have to remember what these are called, so one second. We now have the ability to, once a patron has said no to that consent, really the next step from the GDPR standpoint is you are, as the library, obligated to purge that user's data. They've told you, I don't consent to you keeping this data about me, so you need to get rid of it. So this system preference adds a 3-step process that first, after so many days, will lock that patron's account. If I've said, no, you can't keep my data, after 1 day, my account gets locked in Koha, and it gives you a little administrative lock message. And then step 2, let's say 2 days after that lock, my account will be anonymized. Koha will actually go in and automatically put in randomly generated letters and numbers for my name, my address, my phone number, all my information will just be written over with random gibberish. And then step 3, let's say 5 days after my account was locked, then my account gets automatically deleted. So if you are using GDPR and you want to have a mechanism for automatically weeding out patron accounts where they've told you that you cannot save their data, this feature will take care of that. It just automatically locks, anonymizes, and then deletes the accounts of patrons who have said no to that GDPR consent. George asks, if this is all set up, a patron revokes consent and the patron has items checked out or fees, fines that are unpaid, what happens? It's a really good question. I am certain Koha will not delete them. I didn't think to check whether or not Koha will anonymize them. So let us do that. That should be easy to test, but not quick enough to test for us to just do it right now. But let's find out. My guess, again, would be that it's just not going to anonymize them or delete them because you need to keep them. They have your stuff and owe you money. A related bug that I'm just going to mention rather than really showing, Koha has been fixed to, once my account has been locked by this administrative lock, I am not able to do a password reset on the OPAC to unlock my account. I need to talk to the library to unlock my account once it's been locked by this feature. All right, next up. First, I'm going to turn that GDPR back off. Then I'll log back in here as Kelly. Ooh, what did I do?
Oh, it's I had to change my password yesterday because of this webinar. So I think I just capitalized the K.
Now everybody's gonna log into your account on that.
Or I did Kelly with a 1.
You said you were going to write it down, Kelly.
I know.
There we go. Okay.
I'm the worst.
This is a pretty straightforward change. This has, if you are logged into the OPAC and you are saving your reading history, this now will never tell, Christopher. You're going to have to try 2 things to log into Kelly's account. This shows your star ratings for any, excuse me, any books you have rated in your reading history, which will be nice for anybody who wants to go back and see what they've read and actually try to remember whether or not they liked it. So Kelly didn't like Go, but she did like Stories of Unicorns. Next change is also to the patron record, and that's on the Fines tab. And this is a momentous change. The fines listed here are now sorting by date. Ooh. And actually, you have the ability now to change that sort to whatever you want. I spent a long time looking at this page in 1811 and trying to figure out what it was sorting by there, and I have no idea. It was not by date. I suppose it could have been by like account lines ID. I don't know. It's a nice change to have it sort by something obvious and to give you the option to sort by different things if you want. So when your patrons are looking at their fines here, they can actually have a clue what's going on. All right, my next couple changes are to the self-check-in and self-check-out. The self-check-in change is pretty simple. If you remember back in 1811, there were some CSS changes to the OPAC generally that sort of changed how it looked. Really impacted mostly folks who had done a lot of customization already. There were some things that needed to get tweaked out. Those same sorts of changes have been pushed to the self-check-in page now. So if you are using the self-check-in page and you have customized its appearance in Koha, you might, when you log in after you've upgraded to 1905, see a few little things that are different, mostly like color changes or spacing. Let us know if you run into anything. I don't have a sense of how many folks are actually using that self-check-in page. I don't think it's too many. You have to be a pretty trusting library to let your patrons check in their own stuff. Or maybe more than trusting. You have to have really nice patrons. I've not worked in one of those libraries. But let me bring up the self-check-out and log in here. We have some nice changes on this page. First off, and this is an enhancement sponsored by the Portsmouth Public Library. Yeah, that would make sense. Christopher suggested that maybe you could have volunteers using the self-check-in. Yeah, that'd be reasonable. Be a little easier than getting a volunteer set up with full Koha access. But the Portsmouth, I might get their name right, City of Portsmouth Public Library sponsored an enhancement to add some more information on this page. So previously, all I could see when logged into the self-checkout was my checkouts. Now I can see both my holds and my fines right here, which is really nice. Particularly the holds, I like being able to see them here. I like being able to see really clearly flagged the items that are waiting for me. They get a little exclamation point here and here to let me know if I'm in the library at the self-checkout. Oh, I've got a book. I have to go get my book from the circ desk or wherever your holds live. Also,
I love this. I want to say this is my favorite in OPAC and services.
This here? Yeah, it's just nice, good information. It's one of those things that like it lands here and you think, oh, why didn't we do that before? That's great. I should mention you cannot interact with your fines from here. You can't pay them or anything. It just shows you your fine history. I'd like to pretend that this long list of fines is just because this is a test account, but this is basically what my actual library account looks like. The number of fines I've paid for things that I checked out while I worked at the library and like they never left my cubicle. Anyway, I need a barcode. So that I can check this book out to myself. Oh no, I logged out or timed out. Two changes here. First,
You got it.
this page has been reconfigured such that it has an identifiable trigger on the successful checkout to let you add a successful checkout sound cue. So I put it in a little voice that says, "You got it." But you could make it make a happy little beep or something. Just an auditory clue to let you know that you successfully checked this thing out.
Maybe that button that Staples has, that was easy. Or, that, you know that button?
You could say, "Ow."
That was easy.
That would work.
Yeah.
And then the next change here, now that I've checked something out, you can see it now in my list of checkouts. It really clearly labels the stuff that I've just checked out today. Previously, it just sort of put it all together in the list. Now it gives it a nice big new button. And that is really everything we've got for the OPAC and Public Services for 1905. It was not a big update for OPAC stuff. So that is my whole list. Christopher suggests the audio prompt could announce how much you are saving. That seems theoretically possible, but really hard. You're gonna have to record a lot of different sound cues of you saved $1, you saved $2. So I want to give you all a chance to ask any questions you have about what we've gone through. But yeah, it's not a ton on the OPAC this time. We hit a lot more stuff on the staff client. Oh, I got my self-check timed out again. Well, then I'm not hearing much. I understand you're all typing rather than talking, so I need to kind of vamp a little bit in case you're writing out something complicated. Christopher asks, is this theme new or from the last upgrade? This here on the self-check out, I should say. I believe the self-check out changed its CSS styling in the last upgrade. It's just the check-in that's changing this time. Barbara asks, can the ISSN option be removed from the search type dropdown? Yeah, we could hide that with jQuery.
So while we're waiting for the last few questions to come in, I'll pose the question to you, Andrew, that I put Kelly on the spot for. What is your favorite upgrade from this section?
In this section, I really like the GDPR, I forget what they were called again, the three-tiered system to automatically remove patrons. That seems like a nicely implemented feature. I don't know how many of our folks are going to use it, but I don't know. I just like the tidiness of it.
Yeah. Well, we did find out yesterday that the Central Kansas Library Consortium is using it. So I believe that Kelly is going to do a Monday Minutes with them and find out a little bit more about it. because while we don't necessarily have to subscribe to the EU standards, I still think that that is something that many libraries would like to be able to have patrons at least acknowledge the privacy policy, things like that. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with that one. Oh, we did get a question in.
So Barbara asked about, just get back here, find my record I was looking at again. So Barbara said the magnifying glass did not show here for fantasy fiction genre form and asked if it should. My understanding is that no, it's only going to show on the subject heading. That said, if you feel like it should link here, I suppose it could. That would be an enhancement we could file and make it do that. I don't have a strong feeling on the matter. I imagine catalogers across the nation do, and I don't know enough to have an opinion on it. But no, as of right now, Koha is not expected to put that magnifying glass here because this one is not linked to an authority, just the subject heading. Okay, well, I think we're going to call it. Thank you all for coming. Do join us for our remaining webinars as we dive deeper into the staff side of things. And we look forward to hearing from you all about what you enjoy out of 1905 when you get upgraded. Right. Thank you all.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, everybody.